My name is Soha. Sheldon mentioned that one of the most important roles for a president is support for students. A couple of years ago, not this year, not the year before, but the year before that, there was a number of incidents, and I'm not going to mention specific names of events just because we don't want to get into a political debate. But I want the answer to be general, if you may. There has been intentional and deliberate silencing of certain groups and certain events that happened at Trent from the administration, as the administration was silencing these events and these people for speaking up. And the TCSA did not have a very supportive role either for the students. Knowing that the only woman of color on the board of the TCSA was called a racist for advocating for students' right to speak their mind and for freedom of speech. How are you going to maintain that such? How are you going to ensure that such incidents do not happen on campus? I'm talking about specific things like banning posters, like canceling book rooms that have been booked months in advance, and so on. So how are you going to ensure that does not happen as a president of the TCSA? Thanks.
Please introduce yourself.
Sorry, this is Sheldon talking. That's exactly what. Sorry, that's exactly what the TCSA is supposed to do, and the president is a part of that. Anytime the administration is looking at systematically silencing opinions, that's what we're here for. This is what, that's when we use our resources and everything at our disposal to use that as an avenue to get that voice heard, but also roll up the sleeves and take it to the university and say, look, this is wrong. And the good thing about the university is that they're operating right now on a system of they don't want bad press. They're very scared of bad press. And that's a really good tool that we can use for that as a means of not silencing those voices. On an individual level, yes, it comes down to when those cases come up, the support's there, and you're doing what needs to get done to make sure that those voices are heard.
I think it's very important that we emphasize that. Oh, sorry, Jonathan Alphonsus. Sorry. It's very important that we emphasize that as a board of directors, we're a team, and I think I know of the incident you speak of. And what I would have done, and what I would do if such a situation arises again, is first of all, we would back a certain individual, if it so happened that way. We would back them, with whatever support they needed. So if they needed to put more posters up, if they needed to get a little bit more funding, that's okay. The point is we're a team, we're working together, and ultimately Trent has to benefit. Like the Trent student community has to benefit. And if the event that he or she is putting on will benefit the Trent student community, then yes, we will back you as many things as you need. If the administration gets involved, and if they take it to such an extent that they would keep us, off campus or whatever, then there are other avenues. There are other venues to use. We could use things downtown. Saddle House is run by a different organization. So it's also about critical thinking, I guess, and looking for ways around the situation rather than having to go, to the media to name and shame. Sometimes there are other ways to solve the problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being brief. Please keep it that way. We'll have the next question. Danny.
Okay, Danny speaking. I have a quick question. This might be more related to Jonathan, but I read, obviously, because you guys are both running, your campaigns are very strong. I read earlier in your blog that if elected, you want to bring in a woman, because obviously there hasn't been a woman on the board, and you said something about...
A woman on the executive, not the board. We haven't had...
Or on the organizing executive, which is the four positions that have just been spoken about today. like you said that if elected president, you will create a new position,
No.
or change the board completely,
No.
change the executive board.
Can I?
Policy.
Well, correct.
That's what I wanna.
What I said was that we've had an almond executive for 2 years in a row. So all guys. And I don't think in school with the majority of people being women, I don't think that's right, you know. So what I would do, I didn't say create a position, no one can create anything. What I would do is I would invite a woman to sit on the executive with executive responsibilities, and then talk to the executive then, and hopefully we can redistribute our honorariums to give her an honorarium that would be on par with ours, and then just for this special case, just so we include, you know, at least one female voice, because it can't just be an all voice call all the time, right? Yeah, so including female voice in the executive. I wouldn't. It's not like you can't just like create it out of thin air, but there has to be proper procedures and all that to go through. Specifics can be dealt with if and when the situation arises. Yeah, sure. I didn't say create out of thin air.
That's what I said.
Okay, would you like to speak on it, Sheldon?
This is Sheldon. I don't know why we always look at John whenever we answer. It's like he's the radio. No, when I read it, I went, what a good idea, and then I went, well, okay, how are we going to make it work? But I think the idea behind it, that there's some merit in there in terms of we have to do something about, if it is an all-male executive again, we're going to have to do something about it. What, I have no idea, but that's probably the first discussion that's going to have to take place after the election, if it is an all-male executive. I'm happy to see more women at least running for executive positions than in previous years, so there is some improvement. I don't know if we can take any credit for that, probably not, but there is some change, which is good. But no, I think John's identified an issue that a lot of people are thinking about, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with, or hopefully not have to deal with at least. Anyway.
Thank you very much, guys. Our next question comes from Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan from Arthur Newspaper again. I'm assuming you've read the proposed integrated draft plan for a sustainable future. I'm wondering what your response to it is as presidential candidates, particularly the future of academic programming at Trent. Smaller humanities programs, as we know, are being threatened, and as well about the prospects of privatization on campus, such as the private residence and other such proposals.
So I haven't read the second draft yet. Sorry, Sheldon. I haven't read the second draft yet. In terms of the first one, the TCSA board, we discussed it, and actually we put at least threw our name behind the cultural studies. What was it, Canadian Studies? Canadian Studies letter that was circulated against. In terms of students, when you read the report or the plan, the only role that students play in this integrated plan is really to be retained and sort of pay fees. It's the only role we have in terms of this integrated plan, and it's obviously not good enough. So once I personally read the second draft, I hear that it's better, that there's room for improvement. We need to improve it more, that it has more of a student focus on it, letting them know that we're just not a figment that needs to be retained. In terms of privatization, commercialization, that's exactly one of the things that we're always fighting against. Reducing programs, Friday faculty board, budget proposal went through to cut, I think, 30 or 40 QP positions, which go through as it was proposed. And that essentially is how I think the university is going to force programs to work closely together, i.e. Merge. So that proposal went to Senate on Tuesday and sort of been kicked back. But these are the kind of things that this integrated plan is saying that needs to get done. They're rationalizing some of these decisions. And I don't know how we can support it.
Again, I also read the second draft, but I read the first one. I also read the Canadian Studies letter. What my opinion is that what Franklin's vision of Trent is kind of distorted. I think he sees it more as a university that has to compete, quote unquote, with other universities. But Trent, I think, stands out. And what we should do is I think we should look at the structural factors first. And second of all, we should identify how we can save these programs, in a language that the administration also speaks. So, with data, with the right figures. And I mean, at the end of the day, the decision isn't really ours to make. But as student president, my job is to represent the interests of students, but in a way that the administration can also identify. And so it's finding that middle ground and finding the best solution for Trent. And
this question is directed more so to Sheldon. I was reading in your description that you posted in the Arthur newspaper that you've uncovered some agreements between the TCSA and Trent University that are not beneficial towards the students. So I was wondering, what sort of framework would you propose to nullify said agreements, and what would you do to put in place some new agreements that would make it more beneficial towards students?
The big one that I was referring to is our agreement with the university that they have to accept our ancillary fees and how they're going to use them. And again, just dealing with the administration fees that they take out of it, there's no mention of the university taking out administration fees from our ancillary fees as it is. So we're, as we ask the questions in terms of give us more information, how did you get to these numbers, that sort of thing, we're starting to uncover some of the university finances that are troubling. For example, through our transportation ancillary fee, that money is being used, or some of that money is being used to give staff and faculty free bus passes. And that's just an example of them using an administration fee, which we don't have an agreement for them to take, and using that for, again, something that has nothing to do in terms of administering the fee. So it comes down to looking at those. Any deal that the university has, that's a PP3, sorry, public partnership, historically they're just not good for us. Look at the bookstore. We've got to pay more for bucks. Anytime you've got to leave room for profit in a price, it means we're not getting a good deal. Aramark, you've heard of Aramark? Yes. Prime example. Every time you buy a burger, you're contributing to a profit margin. So any kind of agreement that the university enters into that's not a sort of zero sum or simply service based, it's not a good deal for students because we end up paying more. That's my opinion.
I guess I can talk about, transportation with the administration. I think we should be clear about what we perceive as financial wrongdoing. If there is any, then I think it should be submitted to the relevant authorities. I don't know if we have the credibility to take over the bus system, as some people are suggesting. With Aramark, the Aramark contract is up for renewal, and it's good to see that it's being discussed in the election. I think what I would do for that is really, I think we should sit down, not just students, but also students, local businesses. The Spoon, I think, is a great initiative. And what we should do, I think, is form a consortium maybe, and draft a feasible, financially implementable plan that would compete with the Aramark contract when it's up for renewal. It sounds a little like far-fetched and ambitious, but I'm an ambitious guy and I'm ready to fight for it. If we can figure out a feasible way to implement something that's competitive with Aramark, why not? Yeah.
Thank you everyone for staying with us, those who are listening on radio as well as those who actually are here. The voting will take place from the 15th to the 18th. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to be in the Wenjack. On Thursday and Friday, we're going to be at the Bata. Thank you for coming, and please make sure you come on Friday, LEC 201 at 7 p.m. to hear the second round of the speeches. You can still email your questions at elections@trentcsa.ca. Thank you.